So what did the Olympic rings actually mean? Back in 1894, Pierre de Frédy, Baron de Coubertin, a French aristocrat who had previously tried to bring more physical education into schools, called together a congress in Paris with the goal of reviving the ancient Olympic Games. It was actually an idea Coubertin first brought up during a meeting in 1889. But this time the Congress agreed on proposals for a modern Olympics, and the International Olympic Committee was soon formalized and given the job of planning the 1896 Athens Games. Want to uncover more fascinating stories from Olympic history? Hit subscribe and join us for more insights into the Games' incredible past. After the 1912 Stockholm Games, which by the way were the first games to feature athletes from all 5 inhabited parts of the world, a design of 5 interlocked rings, drawn and colored by hand, showed up at the top of a letter Coubertin sent to a colleague. Coubertin then used his ring design as the emblem for the IOC's 20th anniversary celebration in 1914. Just a year later, it became the official Olympic symbol. The rings were supposed to appear on flags and signage at the 1916 Games, but those games were cancelled because of World War I. The rings finally made their debut at the 1920 Games in Antwerp, Belgium. Coubertin explained the thinking behind his design in 1931, saying, "A white background with 5 interlaced rings in the center, blue, yellow, black, green and red, is symbolic. It represents the 5 inhabited continents of the world, united by Olympism, while the 6 colors are those that appear on all the national flags of the world at the present time." Coubertin actually used a pretty loose interpretation of continent that included Africa, the Americas, Asia, Europe and Oceania, and he never said or wrote that any specific ring stands for a specific continent. Since the rings were originally designed as a logo for the IOC's 20th anniversary, and only later became a symbol of the Olympics, it's also pretty likely, according to historian David Young, that Coubertin first thought of the rings as symbols of the 5 games already successfully staged. Modern inspiration for the so-called ancient symbol has sparked a lot of curiosity, honestly. Popular myth suggests that the rings were inspired by a similar ancient design found on a stone at Delphi, Greece. The ancient stone, however, was just a modern prop. For the 1936 Summer Games in Berlin, Carl Diem, president of the organizing committee, wanted to relay the Olympic flame from its lighting point in Olympia to the Olympic Stadium in Berlin. Diem, it seems, had a flair for theatrics, and included in the relay a stop at Delphi's ancient stadium for a faux ancient Greek torchbearers ceremony, complete with a faux ancient 3-foot-tall stone altar with the modern ring design chiseled into its sides. After the ceremony, the torch runners went on their way, but no one ever removed the stone from the stadium. 2 decades later, British researchers visiting Delphi noticed the ring design on the stone. They concluded that the stone was an ancient altar, and thought the ring design had been used in ancient Greece and now formed a link between ancient and modern Olympics, Young writes in Archaeology magazine. The real story behind the altar was later revealed, and Carl Diem's stone was moved from the stadium and placed near the ticketed entrance to the historic site. The inspiration for Coubertin's design seems to be a little more modern. 4 years before he convened his Olympic Congress, he had become president of the French sports governing body, the Union des Sociétés Françaises de Sport Athlétique, or USFSA. The union was formed from the merging of 2 smaller sporting bodies, and to symbolize this, a logo of 2 interlocking rings, one red and one blue, on a white background, was created and displayed on the uniforms of USFSA athletes. It seems quite obvious, says historian Robert Barney in a 1992 Olympic Review article, that Coubertin's affiliation with the USFSA led him to think in terms of interlocked rings or circles when he applied his mind towards conceiving a logo. Indeed, a ring logo that would symbolize his Olympic movement's success up to that point in time. Circles, after all, connote wholeness, the interlocking of them, continuity. Lords of the Rings. The IOC takes its rings very seriously, and the symbol is subject to very strict usage rules and graphic standards. For example, the area covered by the rings contained in an Olympic emblem can't exceed 1/3 of the total area of the emblem, and the rings must be presented in their entirety. The rings can be reproduced in a single-color version in blue, yellow, black, green, red, white, gray, gold, silver, or bronze, but for reproduction against a dark background, the rings can be pictured in yellow, white, gray, gold, silver, or bronze only.